how to get at the information that we're going to use to populate the actual amortization schedule. So think of your calculator. Once you've put in all this information, now it's kind of like a database that you can access and pull specific pieces of information from. So specifically what we can pull is month by month, we can pull the interest portion, the principal portion, and the balance. Okay, so let me show you how to do that. Let's say that we want month number 1 through, and we're going to use the input key for this. So we want month 1 through month 1 is the way to sort of think about this. So one input 1, month 1 through month 1, just the first month. Shift, amortize, which is on the upper right hand corner of your calculator. And then you're going to hit the equal key, you're going to get something, you're going to hit the equal key again, you're going to get something, and you're going to hit the equal key again and get something. So let's just see what we get. Ready? 1, input 1, shift, amortize, equal. All right? If you did everything like I did, you should get $214. And 27 cents. Okay, everybody get that? That is, in this particular case, that is the principal amount. Okay, hit the equal key again. Your interest for that month, $50. Okay, hit the equal key again. Your balance is now $19,785 and 73 cents. Okay. So what that's saying is that over that first month, that $264 payment is comprised of $214.27 of principal and $50 of interest. So if you add those two together, $214.27 plus the 50, you see you get the $264. Is that right with me? Now your balance is going to be computed by taking the $20,000 and subtracting out the principal portion. So if you take 20,000 minus 214.27, that's going to give you the 19,785.73. Does that make sense? Okay. Calculator's doing all that for you. All right. Now we're going to do one more month just to kind of illustrate the process. You can continue on. If we want the second month, and the second month only, we're going to do 2, input 2, shift, amortize, same exact process. Principal, interest, balance for the second month. So it changed ever so slightly to 214.80. The interest, 49.46. Balance, 19,570.93. Okay, am I matching up with him? Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so now we've got 2 months of just using the calculator to do this. So let's put this into a context that you probably relate to a little bit better, which is the actual amortization schedule. All right? So here's what we're going to do. All right, we're going to start off over here. Our first column, if we want to be precise, is going to be the period number. So in this case, we have done month 1 and month 2 as our 2 periods so far. Okay? That's going to be our first column. Our second column is going to be the beginning balance at that period. Okay, so the beginning balance here at month 1 is the original $20,000. Okay? Then the next column is going to be the monthly payment, which is staying constant at $264.27. Okay, and that's going to be the same all the way down. Okay? Everybody comfortable with that? Okay? Then we go over here to the interest paid. All right? And so in this case, for the first month, $50. For the second month, $49.46. Okay. Next column, principal repaid. Okay. So the first one is going to be $214.27. And the second one is going to be $214.80. Okay? And then our final column is the ending balance. Okay? So the end of month 1, or period 1, the $19,785.73. The second month, $19,570.93. Okay? Does that make sense, everybody? Yes or no? Okay? Now, let's sort of take this, not off the rest of it, but let me sort of kind of explain a couple of things. All right. Everybody understands the beginning balance is how much do we owe at the beginning of that period. So at the beginning of month 1, or basically time period 0, we owe $20,000. We're going to be making monthly payments of this $264.27 for the entire, how many years was it? 7 years? Okay. For the entire 7 years, or whatever it was, 84 months. All right. The interest paid, obviously, as time progresses, this number is going to get less and less because we owe less and less, okay, each month. The principal repaid portion, that number is going to get more and more as time progresses because we have paid off more and more of the loan, but we've kept the payment the same. And then the balance is obviously going to decline month after month. Now, the ending balance for month 1 is the same as the beginning balance for month 2. Does that make sense? You're sort of carrying over. So we can just go ahead and fill that out and just simply say, we know this is going to be the $19,785.73, and then the same thing for the month 2 ending balance will be month 3 beginning balance. Okay? Everybody good with that? Yes or no? Okay, now, here's what I'm going to do. Throw you a little bit of a loop. Without using the amortization function on the calculator, calculate the interest paid and the principal paid and the ending balance for that 3rd month. Any idea how you would do that? It's just the math. Okay, this is where it does a little bit of math, but not much. Just any idea how you would even approach it? Okay? Let me approach it. Oh, you have a solution? Go ahead.
I mean, you would just make it pretty much a calculation for one period, right? With
Yes.
with the beginning balance being your present value.
No, we're not going to use any present value function. Assume that all you have to your repertoire here is a 4-function calculator. Adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing is all you can do. Okay? So how would we get that interest paid number for that 3rd month? Okay? The reason I'm doing this, and sort of, you're gonna, once you see it, then you're gonna understand it, okay? So let's just sort of show you. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna take that beginning balance for that month, the 19,570.93, because that's what you owe, correct? Yes? Okay. What is our interest rate on this? Let's go back. It's 3%. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to multiply this by 0.03, and then you're going to divide it by 12 for 12 months. Okay? So, let's say we do that. So we've got 19,570.93 times 0.03 divided by 12 would give us $48.93. Okay, everybody understand what I just did? Yes or no? Everybody understand why I did what I did? Okay, so that now becomes the interest for that third month. Okay, all right, so if we got that, how do we get the principal repaid?
Just subtract the 264.
Yes, so you're going to do 264.27, subtract out the 48.93, that's going to give you the principal repaid. Everybody follow?
54.
Yep,
Where did you get the 12 from again?
12 months out of the year. In other words, that's only 1 month of interest, so it's 3% for the entire year, but we're only looking at 1 month worth of interest. So we got to divide it by 12.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Okay? All right, so in this case, you're going to take the 264.27 minus 48.93. That's going to give us 215.34. Okay? Everybody good with that? Okay? All right, so the last piece on this, the ending balance. What are you going to do there?
Subtract the 19.5 from the 264.
No.
Subtract the principal from,
You only, it's the most common mistake. You don't subtract out the payment from the balance
Because it includes the interest.
because that includes the interest. You only subtract out the principal. So you're going to take the 19,570.93 minus the 215.34. Is everybody cool with that? Okay. All right. So 19,570.93 minus 215.34 gives us 19,355.59. Okay? Cool? Okay, now, let's go back to the calculator here for a second. And assuming you haven't cleared everything out, all of this stuff is still here. So you should be able to just sort of pick up where you left off, put in 3, input 3, shift, amortization, equal, 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 and we should match up. Let's just see if we do. Okay, 3, input 3, shift, amortize, equal. Okay, so for the principal, we got 215.34. Okay, which matches up. Everybody see me? Yep. Okay. For, and equal again to get our interest, 48.93. Okay, once again, whoops, highlighter. Back it up. Once again, you can see that's the same as that. Okay, then hit equal again, 19,355, and 59. Okay, so once again, same as that. Okay? Are we cool? All right. Now, this is where it begins to start to be interesting in terms of now what we can do with this. Up to this point, we've been looking at 1 month at a time. What if we want to know over the entire loan how much interest was paid, how much principal was paid? Okay? Or we want to know for a specific year or a specific range of months. That's where this whole input function comes into play. If I wanted to know, let's say the first year, the first 12 months, what do you think I would put in? 1 input 12. Okay? If I wanted to know the second year, okay, the second set of 12 months, what do you think I would put in? And be careful, think about it before you answer. 13 input 24. Not 12 input 24, but 13, because 12 is like December in the first year, if you want to sort of think of it in that term. 13 was January in the second year, 24 December in the second year. Does that make sense? Okay, so just to kind of write that down here so that you kind of get a perspective. So year 1 is going to be 1 through 12 months. Year 2 would be 13 to 24. Year 3, 25 to 36. Year 4, 37 to 48. Year 5, 49 to 60. Year 6, 61 to 72. And year 7, 73 to 84. Does that make sense? Okay. So we can say for each year, if we want to select out how much principal, how much interest for each of those time periods, we can do that very easily. All right. Now, you're probably saying, well, why would you care? Well, you might care, especially for real estate purposes, you care because you get a nice little income tax deduction for the interest paid on your mortgage, okay? And so you have to isolate it year by year, how much interest you paid this year versus the next year, and so forth, so on. So it is important that you be able to kind of isolate that. Now, if we wanted to know for the entire loan, it would be basically, since it's 7 years, it would be 1 input 84. Okay? Okay, make sense? All right, so using that logic, let's just see. 1 input 84, shift, amortize, okay, equal. Okay, our balance at the end of 84 months will be 0. We know that because the loan is going to be paid off. And so as for the principal and interest, let's just see. So it ends up being $19,999.99, or obviously rounded the $20,000, okay, for the principal. All right, the equal, so the total interest that we paid on this loan, $2,198.34. Okay. Thoughts, questions, observations? Okay. Is there anything about it that doesn't make sense, or go ahead?
Do a couple things, like I have 32 cents to 34.
And where that sometimes comes into play, whenever you initially input some of the information, if you round it off on some things, like for example, up here, whenever you've got the original information, you could very well, if you round off just to that, and in other words, you start putting in the information and you just leave it there as opposed to rounding it off, you're going to get one answer. Put it this way. for testing purposes, that sort of thing, I can see that, and I can understand where it's coming from, and it's not gonna be an issue. But yeah, as a practical matter, you can set your calculator to round off at 2 decimal places, and that's gonna be probably more than sufficient for our purposes, okay? Other questions? Yep.
So inputting two input for two app, we do that, is it more monthly? And then if you do one input 84 months, and that's
for the whole
that's
term
for
of
the
the
whole
loan,
entire
all
thing?
7
Okay.
years.
So if I want to go specifically to like the 60th month,
Yep.
I had to put 60, input 60?
If you want just the 60th month, it would be 60 input
Okay,
60.
got it.
If you want up to month 60, from the beginning of the loan to month 60, it would be 1 input 60.
Okay.
Because the 1 input 60 is going to give you the cumulative interest and principal for the first 60 months, whereas 60 input 60 is only going to give you the principal and interest just for that month.
So what happened when y'all didn't have the calculator and you wanted to find like the 60th month?
You use the formulas, which are a pain, okay? It takes a really long time to calculate all that by hand. The other thing that we would have available are like these, the amortization tables that you go in, and if you knew what the interest rate is, what the term is, you select the value, and then you use that and multiply it, and it gives you what the payment would be. And that was used for many years. This is actually, you bring up a good point, and I think you actually kind of find this story useful. How many of you, you remember watching like the really old school Westerns on TV, and almost the central theme among a lot of those was the unscrupulous banker that was foreclosing on the family farm, right? You remember that kind of that general theme of okay, well, the mortgage has come due, and we don't have the money for the mortgage, and the farm or the ranch is going to be foreclosed on. And there is a really valuable lesson in that in terms of technology. Your question really gets back to the issue of technology and what the technology was that was available at that particular point in time. It was all handwritten, hand calculated, okay? And what they did, instead of having what we are accustomed to now in terms of fixed payment mortgages, they simply had simple interest calculations. And the way in which they did it, and this is actually, and we're going to cover this eventually, but we must as well cover it now, is that assume that you had taken out a loan for $100,000 and your lender told you that your annual interest was going to be 10% a year, so that means that your interest charge each year is going to be basically $10,000, okay? And it was going to be effectively that each year, at the end of each year, you had to, or it could be done monthly. You could still, they could do the math to obviously say, okay, that divided by 12, if you want to make monthly payments, let's just,
833.
yeah, so 10,000 divided by 12, so $833.33 would actually be your payment. Well now, those of you that are really focusing on this for a second, what is not happening here? No, not penny short. But what is not happening here with this type of loan? If that is your payment every single month, it was not compounded, but more specifically, you're not doing what?
You are leaving the principal.
Yes, the principal is the same. In other words, this is an interest-only mortgage. We still use these today, believe it or not. Okay, it gets us into a lot of trouble. But it is an interest.
Sallie Mae does that.
Yeah, interest-only mortgage. And the problem is just that. Your balance doesn't ever go down. You still owe $100,000 after that year. Okay? Well, let's say this goes on for 5 years. Okay? So, year one, you paid you paid $10,000. Year two, you paid another $10,000. Year three, another $10,000 in interest. Year four, another $10,000 in interest. And year five, another $10,000 in interest. So you paid $50,000, okay, in interest. But what's your balance on the loan at the end of that 5 years? It's still $100,000. You haven't paid any of the principal on the loan. Okay, this is the key point for the Westerns, okay? The loan term is, let's say, 5 years. In other words, I'm the evil banker, okay? You're the farmer rancher. You've gone out there, you've got that $100,000 loan for me. What have you done probably over that 5 years? You've built a house, you've built a fence, you've built a barn, you've planted some crops, you've gotten some cattle and all this other stuff. You made improvements to the property, yes, over that 5-year period. But me as the unscrupulous lender, I'm sort of saying, okay, you're making those $10,000 a year interest payments to me for the next 5 years, and at the end of that 5 years, the loan comes due. How much comes due? $100,000. Where am I getting the $100,000 from? I don't have $100,000. I have enough to pay you $10,000 a year in interest, but I don't have $100,000. So unless I've been socking away $20,000 a year extra and putting it in my mattress for that 5-year period, I'm not going to have the $100,000 when it comes due. So what is the lender going to be able to do? Come in, say, loan's due, $100,000. Well, if you're not able to sell the property for $100,000 or more, then potentially the lender's going to come in, they're going to take possession of the property, and they're going to sell it, hopefully get whatever they can in their mind, get for the property to the next poor unsuspecting person that once again kind of goes through this rinse and repeat. Does that make sense? This is the type of loan that predated basically what we're accustomed to, which is the fixed rate mortgage, which includes a portion of the payment that automatically reduces the loan balance each and every month. So that after a period of 5 years, or after a period of 10 years, or whatever, you have paid off the loan or paid down the balance of the loan. Okay, does that make sense? But to a certain extent, driven by technology, because the calculations, very simple for this, to do the calculations for a constant payment mortgage, a bit more cumbersome in terms of the mathematics involved to actually calculate that, update that, and do so accurately. So whenever we obviously began to have some form of calculating machines that could do a good portion of that math, then we were able to make that conversion over to what we sort of term as that traditional fixed rate mortgage. Well, that's an interesting thing technology-wise, because that stayed the norm up until the 1970s. What changed in the 1970s? A lot of computer technology that allowed for the calculation of variable rate mortgages, adjustable rate mortgages, where your interest rate was constantly changing 1 month after the next. Well, you certainly weren't going to have just a person with basically a 4-function calculator trying to calculate all that. You needed that extra computing power to be able to do that. You sort of follow my logic? That in other words, technology, is my point, drives some of these sort of innovations and changes in terms of the kind of products that are available with respect to the types of loans that are available. Okay? Make sense? Okay. Questions?
So when you get to like larger expanses of these like schedules, when you're dealing with like say a 30-year mortgage, are they still going by like that monthly basis, or do they spread it out over years just as like a little bit like larger numbers, or do they always stay that specific, like it's a monthly, like bit by bit? Like you go like with that 5-year example, you went 1 to 12, 12 to 24, etc. Like would they still do that for like a 30-year one?
Oh yeah, I mean you would actually do it for, once again, and we're going to actually do that using Excel, where you can pretty much just populate this instantly in Excel. Let's just do one real quick, okay? So maybe you've got your computers. If you don't, you can kind of just follow along. We're not going to. This will be the last thing we do, okay? All right. So we'll just pull up Excel, and we'll just sort of show you how to do almost the same exact thing in Excel. Load this up where you can actually see it. Okay. All right. So we'll start with our basic information. So we'll start out with loan amount. And we're gonna be pretty consistent with what we just did. We'll just do $20,000. Okay, our interest rate. In this case, is going to be, what did we say, interest rate, 3%?
3%.
0.03, yeah. Find it here. All right. Get that out a little bit, like this. 20,000, just go a lot quicker, real quick. Okay, term, 7 years. Okay. All right. So those are the basic pieces of information that we've got to have now then to calculate the payment. Okay. So in Excel, it's basically the same sort of thing that you do on the calculator. It's just slightly different functions. You're going to do, you're solving for the payment, so you equal PMT, and then once you do that, it tells you what pieces of information that it requires to give you the answer. And so it says, okay, what's the rate, what's the number of periods, what's the present value, and then in some cases the future value, and the type. We can ignore the type for right now. All right, so we're really going to focus on the rate, number of periods, and present value. All right? Now, the one little caveat here is that since we're doing this on a monthly basis, Excel automatically assumes everything is annual unless you tell it differently. So given that this is on a monthly basis, we're going to take that interest rate of 3% for the rate, and we're going to divide it by 12, okay? So that Excel is knowing that we're doing this on a monthly basis, okay? Comma, then we're going to put in the number of periods, 7 years, but once again, to make it monthly, it's going to be 7 times 12, or 84 months. So we're just going to put in times 12, comma, and then we're going to simply click on the present value, or the loan amount. So we have all the bits and pieces there, and then we close the parentheses, and there we go, voila. Okay, the 264.27, okay, which matches up with what we just did. Yes? Okay, now this is going to go pretty quick. All right, so then we do like period number. We're going to do our amortization schedule. The beginning balance. Okay, then interest paid. Or, I'm sorry, loan payment. Okay, interest paid. Principal, repaid, and ending balance. Okay, so it matches up everything that we've just done. All right, so very quickly, what I'm going to do is we're going to start with period 1, and then right below that, I'm just going to do equal, select that cell reference, and then add 1 to it. So that what I can do is I'm putting that like that, then I can just sort of drag down, and then automatically it'll just increase each one by, 1 month, okay? All right, our balance is going to begin with a cell reference of just going up to the $20,000, cell referencing that, okay? Our loan payment, same thing, cell referencing what we've got here. I may want to go ahead and make that a positive number, so I just pop in a negative in front of it to change it to a positive number. All right. Now then, for the interest paid, there are a couple of different ways I can approach this, but I can do it mathematically, just like we did in class, which was to take the beginning balance times, in this case, the interest rate divided by 12. Okay, and there we get the $50, all right? And hands up. All right, and the principal, just like we did in class, take the 264, subtract out the 50, and the ending balance, take the beginning balance, subtract out the principal repaid, there we have the ending balance. Okay, then to get the beginning balance, we just cell reference over here the ending balance. All right, and I'm just sort of drag that down for several months. We're not going to have anything there at the moment. Okay, this is going to be an amount that we're going to, I know I'm going really fast, but I'm just want to show you how quickly you can kind of develop one of these. All right, if you want to keep this the same amount going down the page, you're going to create what is called a static cell reference. You put these little dollar signs in front of the actual cell reference, and what that does is it tells it that you want to keep it the same cell as you copy it down the page. And so we're going to do that real quick. Okay, keeps it the 264.27. Now then, for the interest paid, for this particular calculation, it's taking cell B9, which we want to change as we copy down, but it's also cell referencing the C2, which we want to stay constant as we copy down, which is the interest rate. So we copy that down the page. Okay, and then the principal repaid and the ending balance, we should just be able to go over, click on both of those, and then just copy those straight down. And there we are. Okay, so that's pretty much all of those numbers now should match up with what we just calculated on the calculator. But you see how quickly that you can pretty much just go in, create an entire amortization schedule, and if we just copy on down all the way down the page, we can see for all 84 months what's happening. Okay, make sense? Okay, any questions about any of this? Okay, you're not going to have to do this on the test. Okay, this is more for if you're interested to kind of, go and kind of play around with it on your own, then you're more than welcome to do so, and I'm just sort of showing you the very basic fundamentals of how to do it. Okay? All right. Do you feel like we've accomplished anything?
Yes.
Okay. So, just to kind of recap, specifically, okay, we obviously, the first kind of half of the night, we did all the conceptual stuff, talking about all the mortgages, and hopefully you're comfortable with that. So we will have a few little test questions that probably will have, some conceptual things. But those are going to be kind of, compare and contrast a secured mortgage versus an unsecured mortgage, or compare and contrast, basically non-judicial foreclosure with judicial foreclosure, that kind of thing. Okay, make sense? Okay, now in terms of the calculations tonight, obviously, any of the kind of calculations that we have done tonight, all of those are subject to being tested, just like last week, sort of going through, giving you sort of the word setup, and then you going through the calculations. So any questions? So next week, here's what I'm going to do. Next week, I'm going to provide you with a handful of questions that are represented in some of the stuff that we've done, and give you the opportunity to kind of work through those. I'm not going to grade them, but we'll go through them together and make sure that you kind of are on point with what we're doing. And we'll cover whatever new material that we've got, and then after that, then obviously come in the following week and we got the little midterm. Okay? Make sense? Okay, you feel comfortable with the pace of things? You feel like we're going too slow, too fast, about right? Reasonable? That's about right? Okay. All right, fair enough. All right, get out of here. See you. One thing I want to do is change the number of basically decimal points in this way. All of them there is shift, and then DISP, which is display, and then hitting 9 to take it on out. Okay, so sometimes that makes your answer.
Okay.
All right, so okay, let's just start with what you got.
Value 3 interest per year, 7, and payment. Okay, and I got it that time. maybe it was that then.
What happens, and I may have mentioned this last time, is that sometimes
We'll stay that way.
the problem is that you may have just been working on another problem, and if you didn't hit shift clear all instead of just a clear,
Uh-huh.
that previous information is still there. Like
Shift clear all?
like, let me show you what I'm talking about, okay? Just, this is, we get the clear key all day long,
Yeah, it
okay?
doesn't erase the
All right,
last
so
problem.
like, I hit payment, still there.
Okay.
So if you don't hit the shift clear all, which is, the shift and then just hit the clear
Got
key,
you, got you.
that clears out everything.
Okay.
And so that you're starting fresh. So now if I go up here, yeah, there's nothing there, it's like,
Right.
it's empty.
Yeah, all right, thank you.
Yep.
A little frustration.
One last question. With this problem with the rate, I didn't ask you what's the rate. So like, well, alright. So, as you showed me, so 12, so for like a
Yep.
12 year, how'd you do this?
Yeah.
So it's 12.
Yep, this is 12.
Then I go straight into
20,000 personal value.
And then what would I put in for the rate?
Um,
What would I,
Just put it, whatever the interest rate is, 3%, so 3,
3 and then this?
and the interest rate key, yeah.
Oh, this?
Yep,
Okay. And then 7,
7. And then shift,
and
in, yep, 84 months,
then,
payment. Just hit, no, just type in payment.
oh,
Then-
here?
Yeah,
Okay.
there you go.
Alright.
Got it.
This is good.
Sorry, did you get that?
Yeah, I did.
So I just wanted to show you.
No, I believe you. Yeah, I believe you. So it's all been videoed. So-
Okay, yes, I'm gonna do that, but just to make sure that, please, I'm not because I tried my best.
Right,
I have been
no,
up since
no,
3 a.m.
understood. There's no problem, okay?
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Yep.
But, as I also sort of mentioned in terms of the secondary mortgage markets and things like that,
Esto es matemática, a mí me gusta la parte legal porque estaba mirando tal vez ir a hacer los y necesito pues
but, as I also sort of mentioned in terms of the secondary mortgage markets and things,
See you guys later. Oops, I guess I didn't turn off that. did I?
Thank you, have a good one.
Thank you.
And thank you for the video.
Oh,
Yeah, the
all right.
videos help.
I almost left it there. Jeez.
Yeah, the videos help a lot the day after, just to.
Look back and